So here on the stream we've got some options for our gauging cross-section. This particular section we're looking at here directly above the weir. The bed looks reasonably uniform and the flow looks quite laminar through it, but if we look closer at the edges we can see the sort of converging effect of the weir, which is in quite a proximity, just a metre or two downstream, and so our velocity at the edge is going to have quite a pronounced angle on it, which is less than ideal. We've also got quite a bit of slack water right in the margins. Ideally we'd try and avoid that too. Right in the centre of the channel there we've also got a boulder, a reasonably significant boulder just upstream, a couple of metres upstream. That's going to be causing turbulence right down through the gauging section, so there'll be a couple of verticals there which are impacted by that. So we've moved just a short distance upstream, 10 or 15 metres. The velocity down the channel is a lot more uniform. We've got the flow lines heading straight down the channel with no angle to it. It's not a perfect section still. As you can see, we've got these sloping banks which then drop off to a deeper vertical profile, but we should judge that as being a bit better than the converging section downstream. If you think of it as a percentage of the overall discharge, we're talking about a very, very small impact on the overall measurement. So this would be not perfect, but preferable to our alternate section. Alright, so from our power on screen, we're going to select our measurement button, and we're going to select our discharge file type, and then we're going to just use the default settings for this gauging. Okay, and this is where you can enter your station number and also a site name. You can put your name or initials as the person who did the gauging, and really important, we need to update this field to mean section. So from default it was on midsection, we want to change that to the mean section. And then we hit OK, and now it's going to ask us to perform a beam check. So we want to put the instrument out in flowing water, away from any obstructions, and just let it do its thing. So we've got our instrument out in the channel. It's clear of the bed. It's sort of roughly in the middle of the depth profile, and we're well clear of any obstructions. And we're just going to hit start. So it's going to send out a whole bunch of pings and assess them for quality. So under the hood, it's still not so smart, so we don't really need to know what's going on. We just want to see this message at the end, and we can see that it's passed this test. So we hit done. Alright, so now we're back at the edge of the stream. We're going to start our gauging measurement. So at this point we're going to click this Add Station button. So first of all it's going to ask us for a location. So this is the position on the tagline that we're currently situated at the water's edge. So I read this as 5.30. We use our down arrow button to highlight the depth field, and in this case our water's edge depth is 0. We come up to a triangular shaped bank. Sometimes if you have a vertical bank you might have depth that you can measure there, so you'd want to input that information. For this particular case I'm putting in 0, and then our next option is our station type, and it's already pre-populated left bank, and in this case that is correct. We could make it the right bank if we were starting at the right bank, but this is left bank. And there is a field here for comments. This is free text. You could add any notes in there that you might think are useful. But these 3 top fields are the critical stuff, so we can hit done. And that's the edge information entered. So from here we can then actually get into a velocity measurement. So again, we're going to use our add station button, and we can move our wading rod to the position which we're going to measure. So because of the shape of this channel, I'm going to come right out to this point where it drops off into the vertical bank. I just want to define the shape of this sort of unusual shaped bank. So our first field is the location field, so I'll read my tagline. I'll read this as 4.87 meters. Our next field is the depth. So our rod is graduated in 2 centimetre increments with a double line every 10 centimetres, and then we have this triple line at 50 centimetres or half a metre. So this is a good place to start, and I can count backwards from 0.5. So this is 0.5, we've got 0.4, 0.3, 0.2. So I'll read this as 0.18. We're starting at 0.5 with that triple line. This would be 0.4, 0.3, 0.2. So this next increment will be 0.18 meters. Okay, so our next option is our station type, and it's defaulted to open water, which is correct. This is open water. This is not a bank any longer, so we can leave that as default, and then we can decide on which method we're going to use for measuring our velocity points. Whether we're going to do multiple measurements, 2s and 8s, or 2 6s and 8s, or just a single measurement at 0.6 of the depth. In this case, I'm just going to choose 0.6 as we're a very laminar flow situation. So 0.6, I believe, will be a good estimation of the mean velocity. So that's the setup on the screen. The next thing we want to do is set the measurement head, the probe, at that 0.6 measurement. And we can use our top setting wading rod for that purpose. We have a scale on here, 0 to 10, and then we've got these numbers on this rear rod as well. And as you see, if you squeeze this back handle, you can then slide this rod up and down, and the probe moves up and down with us. So the scale on this is set so that this allows us to really quickly set our probe depth to 0.6 of the depth as measured from the surface. So our measured depth was 0.18. So all we have to do is line the 1 on this rear rod with the 8 on this scale. Being as accurate as you can, and that's as simple as that. That puts our probe at 0.6 of 0.18 of the depth. So we've got our information input, we've set our probe at the correct depth, now we can just hit measure. So there's a short sort of startup process here. It actually gives you a little diagram here as well. This is the rear round rod, and this is the blue scale, so it sort of indicates how to set that probe depth correctly. And this is a real-time readout of the information that the sensor is recording. It's sending out pings right. It's not measuring yet. This is just a bit of an indication initially of the quality of our measurement. So we can see we've got a good clean signal, and this is a direction of flow indicator. So here at the edge we're actually getting a little bit of interference, which is not super ideal, but we'll restart it and see how it goes. The other really important one is this number here, and as if I wave this the wading rod around, this number moves too. This is a vertical indicator. This is telling us how vertical our probe is. So we want to keep that close to 0 as you can, but you'll find you'll never get it to 0. We just don't want it really big like that. You see it goes red if we tip it too far. So keep it in the green. Good. So we're happy here. We can press our start button. And now it's recording. So I'm just keeping an eye on our level indicator, our level bubble, just keeping it in the green, and you can see it wavers around a little bit, but we're pretty stable. So that's our 40-second measurement capture time. This is a little summary of what we've just recorded, and you can see the down arrow. We can scroll down and see anything else that's just greater than the screen, and we can choose to redo it if we thought there was something wrong, or we can just accept the measurement, in which case we'll move on to our next station. So from the summary, we can see we have got this warning 1. It's telling me we've got boundary interference. So our boundary interference is referring to something physical in the path in the acoustic path of the sensor. The bit of water that the sensor is actually picking up is about 10 centimeters away from the sensor face. So if we look at this in this situation, 10 centimeters would be out about here, so we're probably getting some interference from it hitting the bank here. So with that knowledge, we can either choose to just accept it, ignore the warning, or we might want to choose a different location or modify the stream bed somehow. As I mentioned earlier, we're talking about a really small portion of the actual flow, so I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to just accept what we've measured and be happy with it. All right, so I've moved to our next location. So I'm wanting to define that sort of unusual bank shape. So we're right down hard against our vertical bank now. So we're going to add a station, and the first thing it's asking us for is our location. So we read that off our tagline, 4.8. And then we want to measure our depth. So we need to come, because we're in deeper water now, we come back up our triple line. In this case, this is our 0.5 triple line. We have another triple line further up. So this would be 1 meter. So we're counting down from 1 meter. We've got 0.9, 0.8, 0.7. And we've got, so this would be 0.68, 0.66, 0.64, and then we're probably halfway between, so I'm going to call that 0.63 as our depth. So we can, with our back arrow, scrub out the last measurement of depth and add in our desired depth. The depth field will default to the last depth. So yeah, you just need to be aware of that. If it's a nice uniform stream that never changes, then that would be convenient, but natural streams really have that situation. So our station top is still in open water, so we don't need to adjust that. Now this, based on the input depth, the instrument is saying, well, you're deep enough to do a 0.2 and a 0.8 measurement, which would be a good idea, but as I said before, we're in this really laminar situation, so I'm choosing, in the interest of time, I'm choosing not to do that. I'm going to use my side arrows to scroll through these options until I get to the 0.6 velocity method. You can see the probe there is sort of right tucked in against this vertical bank. Now this is a situation you will usually get at the left bank, regardless of the channel shape, where your the sampling volume, the portion of water which is actually being measured is actually hard up and against the bank, and the instrument physically can't make measurements because it's shooting sound pulses into a solid object. So the little workaround for this is to flip the instrument round. So we're now shooting our beam out into the open water. And if we keep scrolling on our down arrow, we see this field called correction factor, and it's currently set at 1. We're going to set this to -1, which is then going to take all of the velocity measurements it measures and flips them around. As we turn the probe around, it's going to see these as negative velocities. We want to make them positive, so we need to flip the sign. So we use this correction factor option to do this. So we scrub out the 1 with our backspace and then just add minus, so 2 presses on the dot, 1, -1. We haven't set our sensor depth yet, so we need to squeeze the trigger, slide our rod up to 6 on the back on the round rod, 3 on the side scale, which puts our sensor in the correct position, and from here we just hit our measure button. So it's chucked up a warning. It's saying water depth is greater than the QC. So it's saying the last one you measured was a lot shallower than this one. Are you sure you've measured your depth correctly? And I'm happy that I have measured the depth correctly, so we can choose our continue option. So here we go, back in our little startup process. So at the moment we're not measuring anything. This is just our sort of preliminary observation of how things are looking, and we can see that our level indicator is pretty good. You've got to remember you're running backwards now, so you've got to flip everything around in your head. And from here, we can just hit start. So the 2 lines, the red and the blue line, is telling us our X and Y velocities. So the red line is the X velocity, that's the streamwise, the down channel component of the velocity. The blue line was the Y, or the cross channel velocity, and the instrument uses both of those to calculate the velocity vector, so the direction of flow. So we've finished our 40-second time period, and we'll see we've got a couple of warnings here. So we've got an SNR threshold variation, so that will be likely caused by either some maybe some sedimentation changes in the stream channel, so it's changing the SNR, or in this situation it's more likely to just be some close to the bank effects, maybe just some weed particles perhaps have sort of wavered through the sampling volume. Again, you've got to look at it and think, gee, is it something that's fundamentally wrong, or is it just a little bit of something we can live with? In this case, I'm happy to live with it. And our second warning is telling us that the velocity angle is greater than the QC setting. So in this case, it's thinking, so while we've told it we're going to flip the velocity around to be positive, the instrument doesn't know that it needs to flip the angles as well. So it thinks that the angle is far greater than it is, so we can ignore that warning. So I'm happy to accept these warnings and move on to the next station. And again, we can see our summary, and we've still got our water depth is greater than QC, which we talked about earlier. And then our next, now we've got some measurements. It's got some more and more information from each vertical. All right, so now we've moved to our next station we want to measure. So now we can see we're well clear of the bank, so we're not going to have any bank interference issues. We're sort of underway with our gauging. So we use our add station button. So the first thing we want to do is choose our location, set the location. So we read our tagline, 4.4. So the instrument works out or estimates where you're going to be based on your previous 2 locations that you've set. So from the bank it gets a bit messy, but once you're sort of into your gauging and underway, if you're doing consistent stations, say for example 0.2 meters apart, the instrument will work that out and just default to your next predicted station. So it can skip some button pressing, but initially, while we're still sort of getting into that mode, that zone, we need to input a few manually. So 4.4 was my location. We down arrow to the depth, so we need to measure that. So we're starting at 1 meter, 0.9, 0.8, 0.7, 0.6. So this would be 5.8, 5.6, 5.4, 5.2, and we're right on the, we'll call that 0.5, 0.50. It's 0.5. We can set our top setting, use our top setting weighting rod to set the sensor depth. So we've got 0.5, so our depth was 0.5, so the 5 on the back goes with the 0 on the blue scale. We're still in open water. Again, it still thinks I want you to use 2s and 8s. We're going to skip that and just use our 0.6s. And if you recall, the last one we used our correction factor of -1. It's defaulted back to 1, which is what we want to use. So we leave that alone now. And then we can just hit our measure. And it's so it's saying this is station spacing QC. It's saying, well, the last ones you did were quite a lot closer than this one. The last spacings were a lot closer than this station position. Are you sure you've got that correct, or do you just want to check that? So we can just have a quick check. And we are at 4.4, which is what we put in, so we can ignore that. We can just continue on that warning. So again, we're not recording yet. This is just that sort of preliminary screen. We can see our top setting weighting rod help. We've got a good clean signal. We can sort of level this up a little bit. We're still green, but we can get a bit better than that. And then we've got our good flow direction coming in, pretty perpendicular to our cross section. And now from here we can hit start. So we can see our 2 lines again, red being the downstream, the streamwise component, and the blue being the cross-channel component. I don't know if you can see the scale, but you can see the blue sort of really hovers around that 0 meters per second. There's next to no cross-channel component. And the streamwise one is up as the main component, so we've got good perpendicular flow. So there we go, we've lasted our 40-second time period. In our little summary, we've got, we're all black, there's no warnings in there. We're sort of well clear of any issues we might have. And we hit accept. And so the only warning is that station spacing, which we talked about already. So now we're happy, we can move on to our next station. Our next station, so we're going to add a station. We read off our tagline. We're at 4.2. So based on the previous measurements, it's guessing where we want to go. It's not quite right, so we just override it. 4.2. Again, we read our depth. So we can see our triple line. So we're below 0.5, so this would be 0.48. I think that's pretty close to 4.8. It's slightly less, but with the resolution of the rod, we're going to just call it 4.8. Sorry, 0.48. So we need to scrub out the 0.5. 0.48. Still on open water. We're going to change this to 0.6. And just to prove it's still there, our correction factor is still 1, which is what we want. We can hit that measure button. So again, we're not recording yet. This is our little preliminary summary. We've got our top setting rod summary, so we can adjust that. So 0.48, we want to put the 4 on the round rod, on the 8 on the front scale. So very small adjustment from the last one, but let's be accurate. Check our vertical bubble, so we're still green, and we've got this nice perpendicular flow profile. So we hit our start button. Right, so we've lasted through our 40 seconds again. No warnings for this station either. So we're all happy with that. We just hit our accept button. And then we sort of flick through a few screens and images, and we're back to our summary. So the screen that we sort of glossed over and didn't give us a chance to look at, we can look at that. If we just close, this is just a summary, this is not the gauging yet, this is just a summary, so we can click our close button. And this is a little graphical sort of indicator of our gauging location so far. and the bar graph is a percentage of the discharge. Each vertical is a percentage of the overall measured discharge so far. So as we get more and more verticals in there, these proportions will change, and you should hopefully see the colours change. Red is that we've got more than 10% in any vertical, if we want to get that down under 10%. Green being ideal. So here, from our little preliminary screen, we're not recording the vertical yet. This is just our starting position. We can see this signal quality indicator. So we've got this nice sort of high peak that then drops away. So this is the shape you want to see, this sort of mountain shape, if you like, and just with we get a little bit of noise initially, but we want this just one clear peak. The instrument needs to see one clear peak for it to work. Now, so this is an example of an excellent position with no boundary interference, no bed, no rocks in the way, no weed waving through the sampling volume. I'm just going to bring the instrument in close to the bank, and we'll see how it changes. So we're now in a really bad position physically, and we see we've got just garbage basically. We haven't got that nice mountain shape, that nice steep climb up with a definite peak that then drops away. We've got lots of ragged signal. So this is a position. This is what it would look like if you were in a really unsuitable gauging location. And in this case, we're hard up against the bank. The instrument's shooting its sound pulses into a solid bank. It's not getting reflections from water. So you're approaching the end of our gauging section now. So we really want to define this unusual shaped bank that we've got at this location. So we've got a measurement point here, right up close to where it really sort of ramps up into this shallower portion towards the bank. So we've captured our measurement here at this deep section, and we can capture one right up here on the shoulder. And the first thing we want to do is identify our location. 1.34 is our location. We want to input our depth. So we're starting up at 5, 0.4, 0.3, 0.2. So this is 1.8, 1.6. I'm going to call that 0.15. We're still in open water. We're going to do a 0.6 measurement. So from here we can hit our measure. So we've got these warnings which we've talked about before about station spacing. This is just a bit of a check, so we can continue over them. And this is again, we're not gauging yet, not measuring. This is just our little startup screen. So we want to set our weighting rod. So the round rod on the back, number 1, goes to the 5 on the front on the blue scale. We can see we've got a good clean signal. We've got our flow directions coming straight onto the probe, and we just need to keep an eye on our vertical bubble, which is pretty good. Let's start. Alright, we've made it through our 40 seconds, so we can accept our measurement. We gloss through our screens again, and so from here we're sort of thinking, well, the next thing we'll get really, the next logical place to measure is identify this water's edge, this bank. And again, in this case, we've sort of got this triangle shape. Different locations might have a vertical bank where you've got some depth to measure. But here we're just going to identify where the water's edge is, and in this case we've got 0 depth. So anyway, we're going to add a station, and we're going to input our location. So we're going to read that off our tagline. And 7.4, so we can scrub out the information there. 0.74 is our location. Our depth is 0. Okay, and now our station type, so we can scroll the various other options So if you go too far, you can just come back to the right bank. Other options might be if you had a dry portion in the middle of the gauging section, that would be an island edge. I would suggest if you've got that situation, you want to choose a different location. But you know, the option's there if you need it. Open water, which is the method we've been doing, you can see with our 0.6 becomes available if we choose open water. Ice, it's not something we get here in New Zealand, but you know, some places around the world do encounter this, so we can ignore that too. Right bank is where we want to be, and you see all the other options disappear when we tell it's the bank. We're not inputting a velocity. There's no you know, option to do 0.6 measurements. So we just hit done. Okay, so we've completed our gauging. We're satisfied that it's all done. At this point, we could actually go back and add more measurements. We could go and make some edits if we wanted to. Right now, we're happy to have finished our gauging, so we're going to use this menu button, and we're going to complete the measurement. So the first one that's been selected, complete measurement, use our center enter button, and then it still gives us another chance. Are you really sure you want to complete this measurement? At this point, yep, I'm happy to do so. So we hit that OK button, and then it gives us our summary. We can have a look through here and look at the various information that we've measured during the gauging. And this is, at this point, we could still actually back out of it. We could cancel and go and make some changes, add some more locations, or we complete our measurement. And there we are, we're done. That's saved. Yes, that's all saved from that complete measurement window. Yep, that's all saved.